So I've made a lot of videos now about the Trig Board and its amazing low power capabilities with support right out of the box for services like pushover, push safer, if this then that, messaging over UDP, TCP, MQTT, and you're monitoring things like windows, doors, hook it up to the garage door, the mailbox, the doorbell. You can even monitor for water leaks, motion sensing, the smoke detector. The list goes on and on and on. I've made a lot of videos about this, which is why I think it is the ultimate battery-powered IoT device. So at this point, it really only makes sense to talk about Home Assistant, which is supported right out of the box, and I'm going to show you how to do that in this video now. And if you haven't heard about Home Assistant, I think you should really check it out because it really will take your home automation system to the next level. So let's take a quick peek here. And everything I'm going to talk about in this video is up here on the docs page. Go over to the Home Assistant guide here, and this goes through step by step how to get everything here up and running. So if you're a little bit more advanced, you can go here and just kind of blast through these instructions. Otherwise, stay tuned. I'm going to go through all of this here and explain how it all works. And one of my favorite things with Home Assistant is the ability to plot and visualize data very easily with influxDB and Grafana. So, here's this gorgeous dashboard I created, very easily. And this is all part of a test I'm running on a solar-powered Trig board, actually. So, we're pulling in the voltage, we're automating lights to charge and discharge the panels, and all kinds of very cool stuff here, which I'll talk about in a future video, but I just wanted to kind of tease it here. So let's go now over and look at this Trig board I've got on the bench, and I will show you how to set all of this up, but just to give you a quick demo here on an automation. So right now the door is closed, and then we'll open the door up, and you see that it went from closed to open here in the dashboard. Very simple. Now let's create an automation based on that. And we're going to create the ultimate home security system here. And we've got a Google little home assistant speaker thingy, whatever here. And we'll go down here to configuration, automations. And I've already started this, but just to show you this setup here real quick, we're going to set the trigger up for the state of that front door. So when it goes from closed to open, we're going to fire an action here, and it's going to be TTS, text-to-speech, to that Google Assistant family room speaker here. And let's go ahead and turn this on, and I'll show you what it does. So somebody breaks into the house, opens the front door.
I don't know who you are. I don't know what you want. But what I do have are a very particular set of skills. Skills I have acquired over a very long career. Skills that make me a nightmare for people like you. If you leave now, that'll be the end of it. I will not look for you. I will not pursue you. But if you don't, I will look for you. I will find you and I will kill you.
So how cool is that, right? So you can do a lot of stuff with this. In fact, I just want to show you something. So there's a ton of tutorials on YouTube about Home Assistant, but just look at this guy's dashboard here. I mean, it's just crazy. And if we kind of skim through this a little bit, what? Look at what you can do with this thing. It's unbelievable. And, it's all supported right out of the box from Trig Board. Very easy because I support MQTT. So it's all very straightforward, very easy to set up. We don't need to reflash the Trig Board with anything. It's all part of the configurator. And that's what I'm going to show you now is how easy it is to get up and running with it. Okay, so first step to setting this up is obviously you need Home Assistant. And you probably, if you're watching this and are interested in this, you probably already have this set up, but you head over to the Home Assistant installation page. I have mine running on a Raspberry Pi, so I just downloaded the image and flashed it right over, hooked it up to Ethernet, and I was good to go. Okay, so that was a piece of cake. Then once you've got that set up and on your network, you just go to homeassistant.local:8123, and boom, you're in your dashboard. Well, actually, it's going to ask you to set up an account, so make sure that you write down your username and password that you set up to log into Home Assistant because we're going to need that for the Trig board. And a couple things to do real quick just to make things easy. We'll go down to your username here to the bottom left and make sure that we're in advanced mode. Then we'll go to supervisor, we'll go to system, and take note of the IP address here that your Home Assistant server is running on. Okay, then you'll go to the add-on store and make sure that you have the Mosquito broker installed. So we just search MQTT. I already have it installed here, so you'll go to the Mosquito broker. Right here you'll see install. Once that's done, then you start it. And here's my configuration. You'll note that our port we're going to use is 1883. Now this part here is important. You have to go now to configuration, integrations. You'll look for the MQTT here. When you click on it, a little pop-up, you'll see a little pop-up and you just click submit. And I actually grabbed a screenshot. It looks like this. And you hit submit and then you're good to go. So now let's set up the Trig board. Okay, so let's first start by waking the Trig board up. We'll press and hold the wake button until we see the blue LED flashing. There we go. We'll let go. And now it's in configuration mode, so we'll go over to the docs, go to configurator. We'll launch the configurator within Google Chrome here. We'll click connect to it via Bluetooth, pair it up. And here we are with all of the factory defaults. So the first thing we want to do is connect this to the same network that you have your Home Assistant on. So we'll go ahead and do that now. Okay, and when we save and connect, we get an IP address. We're connected, so that is good. Now with Home Assistant, we need to make some changes here. We can't have any spaces here, so we're just going to call this test Trig board like that. No spaces. Save that. We're going to wake on both open and close, but what we have to do is open, no space. And you can name these anything you want, you just can't have any spaces. Same thing with the button, so just button like that, that'll be good. Save after each one. And then with the timer, we'll wake every 60 minutes, that's cool. And we're going to check, we'll check if either one opens actually. So contact's still open, we can't have that. We can go still open, just like that, and still closed. And then I'm going to actually lower the battery voltage down to 1 because we're going to let Home Assistant manage the low battery alerts. Now, one of the cool things with the Trig board is that you can have multiple services running all at the same time. So you could have it still send a push notification via, push over, push safer, or whatever, and also send to your Home Assistant. You would just have multiple services here enabled, and that's totally fine. But for now, let's just talk about MQTT. So we'll go here, MQTT, and you're going to use the same username that you used to log into Home Assistant with, okay, and same password. And then the port is 1883 like we saw, and then the IP address is the same one we pulled out there from the system tab there. So let's put that in here. And then give it a topic, and this needs to be unique for every Trig board. So we'll call this test Trig board. And then make sure you save this because we're going to need this on the configuration side for Home Assistant. So let's go ahead and save that, and we're done. We'll go ahead and disconnect, and let's go test this out. Okay, we'll go back to configuration, integrations. We'll go down to MQTT. We'll click configure, and let's listen to that topic and see what comes in. So that same topic you just had, start listening, and now let's open the door. Cool, message received, test Trig board open. So it works. Okay, great, so now let's create a sensor that listens on that topic. So we'll stop listening. So we need a way to edit the configuration file within Home Assistant, and I use File Editor, and you can get that by going to Supervisor. We'll go to the add-on store, and you want to install the File Editor, and you'll see the same kind of thing, install, start, and I like to keep this in the sidebar because I'm always going to it. So now we can see it right here. So then when we go to File Editor, we want to make sure that we can edit this configuration.yaml file. So you'll go here and make sure that you have this one. So you see here in my file, I've got a lot of other Trig boards set up, but they're all set up under sensor here, and these are all Trig boards all the way down here. So each one of these is an entity that we can go in and use within Home Assistant. So you see I've got the front door set up there, the front door battery, and then a couple other Trig boards here. So let's just set this up fresh with the one we just created, that test Trig board. And again, if you go over to the docs, you'll see all of this stuff set up. And when I created these docs, I was doing it completely from scratch. So this is how it would look if you were setting it up for the first time. So I'm going to leave my existing stuff there, and we'll just create the new one here at the top. So sensor, and you got to be really careful with all of your spaces here within this YAML file. Okay, MQTT, and then space, and then we're going to set the topic here. I'm going to do a lot of copy and paste here. Okay, now I'm just going to paste it right in from my docs page, and then we'll just change the topic to the one we just created there in the Trig Board configurator. The topic is test Trig Board, just like that. And then we'll give it an entity name that's, somewhat human readable within Home Assistant. So this will be we'll just call it the test Trig Board, just like that. And then we can even give it an icon too. So if you search MDI icons, any of these will work. So there's like a million icons in here. So if you want, you can just choose, let's just pick a random one. How about this one right here? And this is called bow tie. So we'll actually copy and paste that and use that as our icon. We can also give it a unit of measurement. Now we're going to use this for now as the state. So let's just leave this alone for now. Okay, let's go ahead and save the file. And these settings are not going to take effect until you do this. Let's go to configuration, all the way down, server controls, and then manually configured MQTT entities. So we'll go ahead and select that. So within developer tools here, we can look at any of the entities here and explore the states. We can go over to template and actually start working on how we're going to parse things out. So we're just doing this for now just to get familiar with how all of this is going to work. So let's look for the test Trig Board. But before we do that, let's just wake the Trig Board up. So I'm going to open the door there. Okay, so it sent the new message across. And if I go to test Trig Board, you see there the test Trig Board open with the battery voltage. So let's copy and paste this entity, and we're going to go over to template and start experimenting a little bit. So let's put in the double curly brackets there, and then we're going to put this in right like that. And it doesn't know what this is because we need to get the states from it. States dot this, and then dot state. Okay, there we go. Okay, so we're pulling the state out of this entity and displaying it right here. Now we can start figuring out how we're going to parse this out. So this is very cool. What we can do is do a split, and we can split by the space character. Cool. So there we have the name, test Trig Board, open, and then the battery voltage. So let's say we want to pull out the open right there. Okay, so we're going to create an entity for this Trig Board here, and it's going to be the state, and it should be open, closed, still closed. Whatever that part of the message is what we're going to use. So now it's a very easy thing to do, but we see that there's a comma right there as well. So what we have to do is first select this part in the array, which will be, check this out, it'll be 1, open, but all we have to do is split again by a comma this time. Okay, and then we're going to choose the first part of that array, open. Pretty sweet. Now we're going to close the door. I'm just going to put the magnet over by there. So there we go. Changed from open to close. I'll open again, and there it goes to open. I'll press the button just so you can see it, button. So now we figured out how to parse this out, and we can do this very easily with value templates. Now this same thing works with the voltage as well. So all we do instead of 1 is a 2, and then we don't really want to separate out by a comma, but instead let's strip off the V there. So we'll split by V and choose the first part, and now we have the voltage. And as I continue to open and close this, you see the voltage measurement there changes. So I just wanted to show you that because this is how we're going to create the two entities for the default trig board, which will be the open and close part of the message and the battery voltage. So let's go back now to the file editor, and for the test trig board here, what we're going to do is add a value template, and I'm just going to copy what I've done already down here, and this is in the docs page too, so you can copy it out as well. Let's make sure that we have the right indentation. So it's just the value, we're splitting by spaces, and then we're splitting off the comma, and now we have an entity for that status. And what we'll do is just copy and paste this entire thing again, because we need two entities or two sensors, one for the state and one for the voltage. So this one will be what I just showed you, where we're splitting off the V at the end, and let's give it some cool icon. How about the transmission tower over here from MDI? And then a unit of measurement for the voltage V. Okay, very good. So now let's save that. We'll reload the MQTT. All right, so now we can go to developer tools. Let's just make sure we've got both of these entities there, the test trig board state there and the voltage. So now let's go to overview. Let's just create a new card here. Let's just grab the entities. Yeah, let's get rid of some of these. And the test trig board. And then a new one, the test trig board voltage. And we'll save that. And right here, let's just get rid of this one. Okay, exit out. So there we have test trig board. There it is, open the test trig board voltage. So now if we close the door, there it is, close, we open it, and it goes to open, and we also have the voltage readout. So from here now, you can create your entire home automation system, tie this in with it, create those automations, scripts, alerts, alarms, blah, blah, blah. You can plot things out. And I think I'll probably make another video on setting up the influxDB in Grafana. Though, if you're curious on how to do all of that, I've got that here in the docs page. If you go over to Home Assistant here, plotting with Grafana and influxDB. So setting all of that up, it's very straightforward. This is a step-by-step guide, and maybe I'll make another video on that. Let me know. All right, so now we've got the trig board tied in with Home Assistant. You saw how easy that was. You have this state now. You know what states are possible, so you could set up conditional cards so that if the state here, switches from open to closed, or equals open, equals closed, or still open, still closed, the button, blah, 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 whatever you wanted to do, you could build out your home automation sequence. You can, create the alerts, alarms, you can plot things out, you can do a lot of stuff here. So the last thing I want to talk about real quick here is now custom sensors. And this is very, very easy actually, because I just walked through how to parse things out. And if we go over to the docs page for a second and you go to custom sensors, so within the trig board base of firmware, and I've got a little snippet here, here's an example of me checking a digital pin, and whether it's high or low, all I do is add a (1) or a (0) based on that state. And because we're so good at parsing things out, splitting by commas within Home Assistant, this 0 or 1 is very easily parsed out. So you see here what I did was add a new entity here for the trig solar state, which is the state of this pin right here, digital read 25, and it's just a comma separated value. So you see the first is the voltage, which is what I picked out here for the voltage, and then I added this 1 or 0, comma separated, which would be the next value in the array. And that's it. So very, very, very cool. And then here's another one. This is actually plotting temperature. So what I did was the same deal again. I just added to the push message a comma first, and then the actual temperature string that comes in. And this also, by the way, I have a full example of if you're interested in that. And then the same deal as before. We pull it out. It's all comma separated. So split by commas. And then there it is, the temperature value. And if you're interested in that, go over here to temperature logging. And I do it two ways, one with Core Assist and one with Home Assistant. So if we go to the Home Assistant method, you'll see exactly how that's set up and how I have that baked into a dashboard here to plot it out over time. And by the way, this is done with the MCP 9808 temperature sensor. I've got a little Adafruit breakout board, wires right over into the Trig Board. Very cool, easy to set up project. All right, there you have it. Trig Board with Home Assistant. So guys, tell me, what do you think about this? Let me know how this works out for you. Even if you're not interested in Home Assistant, I think you should at least try it out. If you got a Raspberry Pi laying around, throw an image of this on there, test it out. It's just so cool to play around with. I was thinking as I was sort of playing here, that this really does obsolete a lot of the IoT videos I've made in the past. And, possibly as a future project would be to support MQTT discovery right out of the box, or ESPhome or something like that. But even now, just with using that simple MQTT message and then parsing it out with a value template, that's pretty good actually. And I don't know how much further we need to go with it. And that's all I've got for this video. So thanks for watching.